Good afternoon, everybody. Today is a very special day. We are here at Ryno Motorsports in St. Cloud, Florida. I was given the privilege to come over here and record this session by the owner and the wife of the owner. Today we're going to be dynoing my buddy's 3 super bikes. Here we have the R1, we have the Aprilia, and the Beauty, the Panigale. Absolutely gorgeous bikes.
Come on in. All of them, I guess. And then you start with whatever one you want.
Yeah, you tell me where I'm allowed to go.
Cool. Yeah, come on over there.
Sure.
Alright, rolling down for all 3 of them. And then which one do you want to do first? Which one? Yeah, the other one.
Oh man, you give me the Ducati. Yeah, you know I want to see the Ducati. I'd love to see the Ducati first, quite honestly, man. I've only gotten to ride it once. We swapped it up like a traffic light or something, right, on Narcoosee, and I thought I was in like 3rd gear doing like 75, and I was in 1st gear.
We'll grab a paper and we'll all put horsepower numbers on and see.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Beautiful. Jose, I was thinking that we got to hang out off to the side over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Show me where.
I kind of like push everything forward that way, so at least from here is typically like your best shot at it.
Okay. Yeah, I got a tripod and everything that I brought with me, so that's sweet. Cool. And if you're okay, I'd maybe like to just ask you a couple questions, 90-second explanation of like what's going on, because this is personally the first time I've ever sniffed a dyno, man. Like I heard you saying about the O2 sensors and stuff like that. Like obviously it's to get readings and stuff, but yeah, man.
Yeah, we want to put a wideband O2 sensor in the exhaust so that we can see the air fuel ratio.
Okay.
So we can say like, hey, look, is this bike too lean? Is this bike too rich? Or what? How close the tune is.
Got it.
One of them got a tune, one of them does not. So we're kind of get a gauge for how all of them run. The horsepower numbers are cool, but we really want to see like how close the tune is and how good the bike is running, how efficiently it's running. Is it too lean? Is it too rich?
Right. And people mind my manners. This is the owner here, Dakota. I've been taking my bike here for a few years. This is a behind the scenes that I certainly appreciate, sir. Now, are there any additional sensors that you add on other than the O2 sensor? Okay. Makes no difference to me. Now, if you don't mind me asking, like, let's say hypothetically speaking, after you tune a vehicle, would that be, would the next step be to throw it on the dyno after you tune it to, you know, make sure that everything you did was right, or like how does that work?
The tuning process will happen on the dyno.
I
see.
Dyno
is just a treadmill. Think about it like that.
Okay.
The dyno is a treadmill to simulate road load, right? You can use it to give you your output numbers as well, but in the tuning process, you're using it to simulate load on the street,
right?
To simulate your different throttle positions and RPM, and you're using a different software typically to tune the ECU or power commander.
So all the tuning is happening through the ECU itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Most likely that's how we recommend doing it.
Right.
ECU flash. So your data logging, that data that's streaming out of the bike And out of the O2 sensor, you're compiling all that data into one.
And then translating it into some factor within your software that's telling you, okay, this thing's...
Imagine like an Excel spreadsheet, right? You got RPM down the side of throttle position along the top. And your data allowing all the throttle positions and RPMs. And then that correlates with, okay, at 20% throttle at 6,000 RPMs, you got an air-fuel ratio of 14.7. Compare that to your target AFR table. And say you were targeting 13.0. There'll be a percentage change to get there. You take and apply those changes, and then run back through it and make sure what.
And then once it stabilizes, you know that you've hit whatever number that you're targeting.
1 or 2% of your target, then you get variances in airflow in that day, and you're dialed in.
Cool.
Got that on camera.
first one you put me on. That looks good.
God, that's stupid. Yeah, it's not tuned. Oh, shit! 192.3. And it's not tuned.
Holy shit, 192.3, huh?
That's impressive. That's not fucking tuned, bro. With a tune, I can get another 10 horsepower out of that. Easy.
We just about wrapped up here at this point, folks. Like I said earlier, we're here at Ryno Motorsports. We've just got all three of these bikes here on the dyno to get the power and ratio numbers. Overall, I think it was very informative. But K10, what do you own these bikes, you understand the data. What do you feel was a plus about this experience?
So today specifically, it brought my knowledge base to a much greater depth. You know, I own the three bikes. I ride them. I put them through their paces. I learn them. I know what they feel like. So the modifications that I make to the bikes, they all yield different results and outcomes. So to be able to come here with Dakota here at Ryno Motorsports today and just understand to the level that he explained, like how the relationship works from your throttle to the throttle blades, you know, to how the bike kind of comes together when it's going through the gears, what it should feel like, and then him going into the system and showing you exactly what the bike is doing at every moment and how he can manipulate that and adjust it to optimize the performance of your bike. It's absolutely ridiculous. So there's a lot to gain from being in touch with the right people. Somebody like Dakota at Ryno Motorsports, he definitely is worth every penny. I think he actually doesn't charge enough for everything that he's sharing. The honesty, the transparency. He'll throw the bike on the dyno. He'll tell you exactly what it's doing. He'll diagnose an issue. For instance, when we first put the Aprilia on, it didn't produce the numbers that I had anticipated, and he was able to identify that the O2 sensor that was actually running from the OEM configuration on the bike, it was picking up too much fresh air and fresh O2, so the bike was running a little bit rich, and he was able to diagnose that and basically pull out the O2 sensor, unplug it so that the bike was reading true, and the bike put down some phenomenal numbers after that. So it takes
we were 192.7 on the Aprilia.
Yep.
192.3 on the Ducati.
Who don't have tunes, by the way.
And then
this is not tuned.
184.6, I think, on the Yamaha, right?
Yep. So Yamaha does have a little bit more modifications, but it's also a smaller engine. So we have full Austin Racing exhaust on the Yamaha. We have a sprint filter. We have down one tooth on the sprocket gearing for the Yamaha. And then the other bikes just have exhaust systems and filters with no tune. So it's running solely off of the ECU that they have from factory, and it was quite impressive. Like I said, this gentleman Dakota here was able to really get down to the nitty gritty, show you exactly what's going on with the bike, what it's doing, what needs to be changed, and how it's performing. So if you want to get shit done correctly, you guys know where to go.
I recommend bringing it down to Ryno Motorsports. One thing that I would kind of just also touch on that is what you said. He actually put this onto the dyno first, saw some awful numbers, and instead of just saying, all right, well, the numbers are awful and leaving it that, dynoed the other two and then came back to this one, which means that, at least to me, what that says is that it's not just taking your money and fixing it. There's a desire to understand the problems within it. And when you have someone that does that, you know, you walk away with the personal assurance that this person that's working on your machine is doing so with the absolute best interest in mind, right? Like, he showed us how, in some cases, there's the capability of manipulating numbers. And if you don't know exactly what you're looking at and you're just looking at the pretty greens and reds and how the lines look on the graph, you wouldn't understand that there's a way for people to take your machine and give it back to you with
without
falsified
without
numbers.
producing outcomes. Yeah.
Without producing the right numbers. So I really appreciated that. I bring my bikes here too. I have a CBR 600, as you guys have seen, and a Vulcan, and they do good work. So
Yes.
great experience. Again, Ryno Motorsports. They're here in St. Cloud, Florida. 407-989-8505. Follow them on Facebook. You can't go wrong with these people, honestly. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say? Because I'm
No, it's well put. Like I said, he was honest enough and dedicated enough to say, all right, I'm puzzled by the Aprilia. I'm not sure what's going on. So let's throw the other two bikes on. And he came back to this. It's well after hours, and he's still here. He decided to take the time and really dive in and figure out why the Aprilia was not producing numbers, and he was able to figure it out. And guess what? The bike's an animal. So here we are, Ryno Motorsports.
All right. Thanks, you guys.